The Story of Leif and Jeanett, Part 3b. We walked along a path in the park which went up a steep hill. There were construction workers that we walked by that were building something, and they looked at us casually. I remember thinking to myself, I wonder if they know who she is. As we walked, we were just getting to know each other, and I was doing most of the talking, it seemed, and I was telling her about what I have done so far in Oda. She had been looking at my page because she knew that I'd met the farmers up at the glacier. She wanted to show me something, so I continued to follow her up the trail toward something. She was having a little bit of trouble remembering exactly where to go. She found her way, and on top of the hill, she led me to the edge of the woods that looked out over the lake. There was a great big opening, and we had to climb out on top of a massive rock. It was so big I could hardly even tell it was a rock. It looked like a cliff. We had to step over some big cracks. She told me a couple stories about how when she was young, she would go out with her friends and hang out on this rock, but that had been a long time ago, and I don't think she had been there since. I really enjoyed hearing those stories. When you're standing on this rock, you're about 30 or 40 feet above the ground below. And it really is a large area that you can stand on up on top of this rock. I remember looking down up in front of me on the rock, and there were these holes drilled into the rock, and maybe a couple places where there were iron spikes hammered into the rock that were very old. And they were kind of sticking up, and you could easily kind of walk out there and possibly trip on one of those and tumble over. And I remember here thinking about Jeanett with her friends out there hanging out. And it was probably a little bit risky of them. They were probably being a little bit naughty. But I was hypnotically staring at those holes and those spikes when we were kind of just enjoying the time together out there. It was a beautiful sunny day, and there we were standing on the rock. It was a very special moment. Of course, I wanted to get a picture with her, but I was very worried and nervous to ask because I didn't want to do anything wrong. We stood there for a few moments and didn't say anything and just looked at the view. I didn't want it to end. I felt very comfortable with her in the 15 minutes we had been walking around. I knew this was the moment to ask her to take a picture as we stood there in silence looking at the view. When I asked her if I could get a picture with her, she was very much encouraging of it. It was at that moment when we stood together and took a selfie of us, and I felt so happy that she didn't make a big deal about it and made me feel comfortable. She didn't say not to share her picture or anything. I cannot remember exactly, but I think she suggested that she could take a picture of me by myself out on the rock. So I gave her my camera, and she took a picture of me. I was so happy and so excited. She was soft-spoken, and we got along, and I felt like she was a good person, just like how I had observed in her photos. We stayed out on the rock for probably 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. I was doing most of the talking, and I had to slow myself down a little bit because I was nervous and excited, and you can imagine. I felt like she understood this too, but I wanted to be upbeat and excited. I remember how cool it was to stand next to her because she was so tall also. Once I felt her comfort level with my camera, I was starting to feel more like myself in terms of taking pictures. Otherwise, I would have been taking pictures as we were walking up to the rock from the very beginning. She wanted to show me the rock that we just stood on from the ground looking up. So I followed her as we made our way off the rock and down the hill.